Today we're going to talk about one of the most important tools for all of my artwork, and that's a Wacom tablet. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm David Bird with Reality Reimagined. I'm an award-winning photographer and Photoshop artist that specializes in fantasy composite art. It is absolutely essential for me to use a pen tablet in all of the artwork that I produce in Photoshop. And for 20 years, I've used Wacom tablets simply because the company keeps innovating their designs and improving on the technology itself. And folks will ask me like, hey, do you really need a pen tablet? And the learning curve, it's so tough and blah, blah, and I totally get it. And I ask them, what do you use right now? And they're like, well, I use my computer mouse or the trackpad on my laptop with my little fingers. And I make the joke that that's like a neural surgeon performing brain surgery using their feet instead of their hands. It's not a good idea at all. It's important to use the tablet for two reasons. First and foremost, it's the relationship of the pen in your hand and your hand-eye coordination. It mimics the same control of a traditional artist with a brush or a pencil. You need that control. You need that fine-tuned control that you can see with your eyes and be able to use with your hands. And number two, it's the pressure sensitivity inside the tablet itself, so that the lighter you interact the pen to the tablet, the lighter that the tools are going to interact in Photoshop. So for today's video, we're going to talk about the etymology of the word Wacom and how it's pronounced. Spoilers, it's pronounced Wacom. Then we're going to do a pressure sensitivity demonstration inside of Photoshop. Then I'm going to show you the actual tablet that I use and some accessories that I recommend for the tablet. And then we'll go through the process of installing the tablet in Windows, because I have no idea how to do it for a Macintosh. And then I'll show you some best practices there in the installation itself. If you are new to this channel, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back to the journey. If you like the content you find in the video today, make sure to give it a like and consider subscribing, because new content debuts each week in photography and Photoshop education. So when you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of that new content when you return to the YouTubes. So Wacom, that's how it's pronounced. Long ago, I thought it was pronounced Wacom, and I was educated. It's pronounced Wacom, and that's totally cool. When I hear it's pronounced Wacom, I'm like, no, it's like, or we're gonna whack 'em, like whack 'em. No, we're not gonna whack anybody today. So it's Wacom, but I did not know this until recently, the etymology of the word itself, and it's really cool. So Wacom, first, the W-A-H is the Japanese symbol for harmony. It's how it's pronounced, wa. So the Wacom, the tail end part of it, is for computer. And the tagline for the company is toward the harmonious development between man and technology. I think that is freaking cool. That is so cool. And it kind of goes in conjunction of support of what I'm talking about. You need that connection with the pen and the hand-eye coordination and the control. So Wacom toward the harmonious development between man and technology. I think that's so cool. So anyway, let's go into Photoshop. We'll do a pressure sensitivity demonstration and continue forward with the tutorial today. So a blank document opened in Photoshop. I'm on the basic brush tool with a soft edge brush, and the brush's controls have been set to an opacity and flow of 100%. And Photoshop has been told to ignore pressure sensitivity. You have the ability to turn it on and off inside of Photoshop. It's always active in the tablet, but you can turn it on and off. And with it off, no matter how hard I push down with the pen to the tablet or how lightly I push down to the pen to the tablet, it's going to put down 100% flow and opacity of the paint that I chose for the basic brush. Now, there are two ways to turn on pressure sensitivity inside of Photoshop, and I recommend this first way for the very first time you're actually setting up the tablet and using it in Photoshop for the first time. With the basic brush tool active, come up to this icon here and click it, and that'll bring up the brush settings dialog. And then come down to the brush tool. You have to do this for every tool, by the way, that uses pressure sensitivity. Check this box where it says transfer. When you do, it's going to activate opacity jitter and flow jitter. Make sure the controls are set to pen pressure. It will be by default set to off, and make sure that it says pen pressure in these two controls. Now, this is really important. You're not going to see it here because my drivers from my Wacom tablet are interacting with Photoshop appropriately. But when you set up the tablet for the first time, if there is trouble with the driver interacting with Photoshop, you will see in this gray area, or this gray area where my arrow is right now for my mouse, a triangle with an exclamation point in it. That's Photoshop's way of telling you that it's not communicating with the tablet as far as pressure sensitivity is concerned, and will only appear when you go to pen pressure under the controls. For the June 2020 update, which is what I'm using for Photoshop right now as a part of the Creative Cloud, sometimes it's a bug right now. Sometimes that triangle will be there with the exclamation point, and all you have to do is actually touch the pen to your tablet in your document, and the triangle with the exclamation point will disappear. If that does not happen, and the triangle and exclamation point are always there, that means that Photoshop is still not interacting with the tool at all, or interacting with the tablet. So the way you kind of troubleshoot that is to restart your entire computer and hope that it goes away. If it doesn't, then you may have to go as far as uninstalling the tablet and all the drivers and reinstalling it. So let me be honest here. In the 20 years that I've been using Photoshop and Wacom tablets, this is not a Wacom tablet driver issue. This is a Photoshop issue. With all due respect to Adobe, I will always tell the truth on this channel. I've had this problem many, many different times. I've talked to Adobe tech support in the past, and they have said that ultimately it's up to Wacom to make sure their drivers are working. It's not a Photoshop issue. I can understand that. However, Wacom has always done a great job of updating their drivers and staying on top of their technology. Photoshop and Adobe has had historical challenges with those two tools interacting with each other. So if you have that little triangle with an exclamation point, try restarting your computer, and then if it continues, uninstall the tablet and the drivers, reinstall them. If it's still there, then unfortunately you have to reach out to Adobe and start working with them to how to solve that problem. But I will say this, it has gotten better and better with every version of Photoshop. And for the past several versions of Photoshop, I have not had trouble with this problem. Like I said, for the June 2020 update, there's the bug where you may see that triangle with the exclamation point, but the moment you touch the pen to the tablet, it's almost like it has to refresh the connection, and then Photoshop understands there's a pressure-sensitive tablet that's connected to the computer, and then it therefore allows the controls to be checked. So when you're setting up the tablet for the first time, go to the brush settings icon here, come down to transfer, check it, and make sure control is set to pen pressure for both of these. The other way of doing this, I'm going to actually turn this off really quickly. The other way of doing it, so you don't have to come up to the brush settings, is to check this icon here for the basic brush. When you do and click it, it's then going to turn it on for transfer, and it's going to set the opacity jitter to pen pressure, but not the flow jitter. That's okay because you can independently control the flow jitter itself by just moving this slider around using hotkeys of Shift and any number on your keyboard. So when pressure sensitivity has been set, and the reason why it's so important is because now, with it set for opacity, if I lightly touch the pen to the tablet and to the document, it's going to gently start putting down some of that paint. And I can continue to gently touch, or I can push down really hard on the pen and put down 100% flow and opacity. Why is this important? Why is pressure sensitivity important? Well, let's do another demonstration to show you. I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to turn on this layer that is filled with blue. And then I'm going to come to this top blank layer here and select it so that I can paint on it. Then I'm going to change my foreground color to red and make sure that I'm using a pure form of red. I want to use pressure sensitivity to make the color purple in this document. Because to make the color purple, you have to combine red and blue. So when I start gently painting onto this document, making my brush pretty big, and gently start tapping, it's putting down just a little bit of red paint. I can control it, even though the flow and opacity have been set to 100% up here. Because pressure sensitivity is on, it's gently putting down a little bit of red paint. And every time I lift my pen and interact with it, it puts down a little bit more red paint. So if I go a couple stages back, that's the color purple through here. As I continue to gently put down some paint, it's changing the shade of it and changing the flow of it. And if I push down really hard, I get the color red. So when you think about it from a perspective of retouching a human subject, and this is again in the retouching series here on this channel, the lighter that you interact the pen to the tablet, the lighter that you're putting down those colors, the lighter that you're building it up, it gives you control to be able to paint, and you need that control inside of Photoshop to be able to produce great artwork. And not just painting, when you're using a layer mask, the lighter you interact the pen to the tablet and pressure sensitivity has been turned on in Photoshop, the lighter that you're going to get those controls and be able to augment it and control it and build it up itself. So let's move on. I'm going to take you to B&H Photo's website and show you the actual tablet that I use and talk about a couple of accessories that you need, that I recommend to use with your Wacom tablet. So we're on the B&H Photo website, and if you've never heard of B&H Photo, they're one of the oldest, longest running photography stores in New York City, and they don't only sell photography equipment, they sell computer equipment, music equipment, all kinds of technology, and they deliver it across the world. They're a great group of individuals. They have sponsored me and supported me at the photography conferences that I teach at. They provided lighting to the students and background paper. They're just a great group of individuals, and I highly recommend that you check them out. I try to purchase as much technology from them as possible, both computer equipment and camera equipment. You will not be disappointed. Go to the description below in this video that will take you to their main site. If you just go to a Google browser and type in BH Photo, you'll find their main website. So this is the Wacom tablet that I use, the Wacom Intuos Pro Creative Pen Tablet Small. Let's talk about a couple things with Wacom. First and foremost, there are 3 different sizes of tablets, small, medium, and large, for the Intuos line. I used to use, with my Intuos 4, I used a large tablet, which is a considerably huge tablet, and it is not necessary for the type of work that I do. I bought it because I use 2 computer monitors, and I thought I need all of that surface area because of the 2 monitors itself, and it's not necessary. For traditional artists, traditional painters that are using Photoshop or Corel Painter or other programs like that to actually make paintings digitally, I think that version of the tablet, the large version of the tablet, is necessary because they need all that surface area to be able to make broad strokes with the pen. If you're a photo retoucher or digital photography retoucher and editor, in my opinion, my recommendation is either the small version or the medium version. I bought a small version of the Intuos long ago to travel with, and then I had that large tablet long ago, and the small surface area is perfect. I use a 32-inch monitor as the main monitor, and the small surface area is plenty of surface area for all the work that I do. So that's my recommendation. You can either look at the small or the medium version of it. Now, how Wacom categorizes their tablets for the Intuos line. So it was Intuos 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then they went to Intuos Pro. Unfortunately, they're all Intuos Pro, but it's the model number that you have to look at to see if you're getting the most current version of the tablet. Now, it's not so much the software and the technology inside the tablet, it's really to do with the shape of it, the express keys, the touch ring, and so forth. So I use this one, the PTH460K0A. That's the type that I use. Again, there will be a link for this in the description below, so you can go right to it. The key to look for are a couple of things. First, the levels of pressure sensitivity. So it has 8,192 levels of pressure sensitivity. The previous Intuos Pro that I had 2,000 and something levels of pressure sensitivity. And I think it started at like 1,000, then went to like 2,000. I think there was a 4,000 levels, and then it went to 8,000. The 8,000 is in conjunction with the Pen 2.0. And I do recommend that you get, if you don't have a pen tablet already, I recommend that you go with the Intuos Pro line and make sure that you're getting the Pen 2.0. It gives you just a little bit more control and flow. It is not as big in your hands as the previous version. It feels better, it has better control, and it's just a great tool. I really like it. So make sure that you're looking for the Wacom Intuos Pro line, and then look for the PTH460K0A and go to B&H Photo for it. Now, in the pen itself, the actual little piece at the very end, the tip of the pen, is called a nib, an INB. That has they have different nibs that you can use, and that's again what you're actually going to be drawing with. It's not the flat edge of the plastic of the pen, it's the little tiny nib at the edge of the pen itself. I like to use the felt nibs. The felt nibs are actually a paper substrate surface. I don't know what it's made of, but it's compressed down and it gives me traction so that when I'm moving the pen across the plastic slick surface of the tablet, I get just a little bit of traction. The default nib is a plastic nib. It's a little black plastic nib. And unfortunately for me, it just slides too fast across the tablet. I've never cared for it in all the years that I've used it. When you buy the Wacom Intuos tablet, it's going to come with the pen, but then also that little black circle that the pen is sitting on top of. Inside of that are various nibs. including the felt one and the traditional black plastic one. So when you just, it will show you, just turn the little plastic, or turn the circle of the holder, and it'll pop off and you'll see the nibs inside. So you can try out the felt nib or the plastic nib. If you like the plastic nib, that's awesome. If you like the felt nib, I highly recommend that you come to B&H and you purchase an extra pack of nibs. So a felt 10 pack is 10 bucks. It's nothing in the world, because when you use the felt ones, they tend to wear down very quickly. The plastic nibs will last for a very long time. The felt nibs will begin to wear down. I have 4 dead ones sitting on my desk in front of me right now, and I keep them as trophies of all of my artwork. No, I keep them there just because when I travel, sometimes I will take them with me, so that if I forget the extra pack or the pen holder itself, I have these backup crappy nibs to use, because it's my worst fear that I'll be teaching and be like, okay, everybody, let's use the Wacom Intuos tablet. They're amazing. And I have no nib in my pen. And without a nib, the pen won't work. So I recommend the felt nib. I recommend that you buy an extra pack here from B&H and look at the Wacom Intuos line, either small or medium, and make sure that you're getting one that has the highest level of pressure sensitivity that you can get, and that you're using the Pen 2.0. Now, there's other versions of the Wacom tablets, like the Bamboo or the Creative tablet and so forth, and they're all great tablets, I'm sure. But I do believe one of the limiting factors is the levels of pressure sensitivity. If you're going to spend the dollars, I recommend that you try to get the newest version and get one that has the highest amount of pressure sensitivity inside of it. So now let's move on to installing it in Windows and going over some best practices there. So when you connect your Wacom tablet to your PC for the first time via the USB cable, Windows is going to recognize it, and then it's going to install a basic pen tablet driver to Windows. Do not be deceived by this. It's not installing the actual Wacom drivers. It's just making sure that the pen tablet is connected to Windows. Unfortunately, I've had some people come up to me and say, I bought a Wacom tablet, I connected it, pressure sensitivity is not working. It's because I never downloaded the drivers for Wacom itself. So it's been a while since I've set up this computer, this tablet, so I don't recall if there's a CD or a DVD that comes with the tablet itself. I think there is, but if there isn't, if you go to the Wacom main site, and you may be even prompted to do this when you install it for the first time, go to the Wacom site and download the drivers for your specific tablet itself. And I think, again, you're prompted once you connect it for the first time. When you install the drivers, you're going to get the Wacom Desktop Center as software where you can control everything. So that's this screen that we see here. First and foremost, it will show your devices. I'm using the Intuos Pro Small, and it has a battery indicator here because my tablet has the USB connection or a Bluetooth connection. And I do like that about this tablet, even though I don't use the Bluetooth connection, I just use it via USB. But as I travel, if I ever forget the cable or the cable breaks or gets lost, I will be able to use the tablet connected to the computer via Bluetooth, and it consistently keeps charging it while the cable is connected itself. So here in the software, if you have any updates for the drivers, you'll be flagged by the Desktop Center to download them. I always install them every single time a new driver comes out. In these settings controls here, I'm going to click where it says pen settings, but you can click any of these, and that will activate this window. You can also subsequently get to this window by going to your control panel on your PC and going to Wacom tablet properties, and we'll bring up this window. This is where we set up some of the basic controls of the pen and the tablet itself. So the tablet is here as the device. The different tools for the device, the functions are the express keys. You also have the touch option. I have turned touch off in my tablet. It's a little switch on the side so that I could use my fingers and so forth to drive the tablet. I turned it off. And the reason why is because when I'm interacting with the pen to the tablet, the side of my hand, the tablet sometimes will get confused and think I'm actually using my hand to try to drive it, and it gets conflicting controls and signals and so forth. So touch controls are here. And then the two different pens. Now it knows that I have my previous pen from my older version of my Intuos Pro tablet, but Pro Pen 2. You want to make sure that first we've selected the actual device, so it's indicated with the highlight around it, and then I've selected the Pro Pen 2. If I want to control the express keys or the speed ring on the tablet itself, I would click here, and I get a different set of controls inside this main window where I can associate different things to the express keys. So the express keys. I used to use these a lot with my large tablet because I would just set up different things I would do inside of Photoshop, like feathering a selection. Shift F6 is the hotkeys for that. I would set it to an express key because you can come into here and you can set it to be clicks. You can set it to be keyboard keystrokes. And that's where you would set up the actual hotkeys you use in Photoshop. You would set them up under here, and then you can even label it as something. And it would say feather is what I would call it, or Shift F6, whatever you want to call it. I used to use the express keys. I don't anymore, and not because I don't think they're good or functional or whatever. It's because after 20 years, I have all the hotkeys memorized. And it's just muscle memory for me to be able to do it and just to use the hotkeys themselves. Plus, when I started teaching, I couldn't very well teach. Well, feather your selection by hitting the express key on your tablet. I needed to show them how to do it inside of Photoshop. So I don't use the express keys, but if you want to use them, and I think they work wonderfully, then, or the speed ring, you can use them. You can set them up here and set up the different controls for each one of them here. I'm going to click Pro Pen so that we see this window where we would start controlling the Pro Pen. This is important, this last section here, for application. Right now, it says all other, which means how the pen tablet will function across any program inside of Windows. Doesn't matter what it is, until you set up the actual photo editors that you use. So you can see here that I have one set up for Photoshop and one for Capture One. The controls are the same for either one of these. To set up a new application in the Wacom Tablet Properties window for the first time, you probably it will only say all other. Come to this icon here and hit the plus sign. It's going to bring up the window, add application for custom settings, and scroll down, and it should find Photoshop for you. And then you'll select it and hit OK. If it doesn't find it, you have to go to Browse and then search your hard drive to find the root folder of the software that you want it to include into the application window. When you do that, it will have the icon here for Photoshop. So now when I click it, we're going to set up specific controls for how the pen interacts with the tablet just for Photoshop. So let me be clear with that. That's kind of the beauty of this. You can set up a certain set of controls, a certain set of functions, a certain set of what the buttons do on the pen for Photoshop, have it be something completely different for Capture One or other photo editors, and then have it be something else for all the other programs you use inside of your PC. So under Photoshop, here are my settings that make the most sense for me, but I strongly recommend that you explore this for yourself. Under Tip Feel, this is how hard you have to press down to get full power of the tablet or the pen itself. Let me move my mouse off of that so we get that little window away. So it will be defaulted to the middle right here. I have taken it one tick mark past toward firm, and that's just what works for me. I like the feeling of that. If we look here under current pressure, when I actually touch the pen to the tablet, you'll see I'm pushing down about as hard as I generally like to push down, and to me this is full strength. And notice it isn't filling the entire bar. I wanted that because I want it to be something where even if I want full strength of the brush, it's still not putting down all of it, because that's how important it is to me in my artwork to build up the effect with the pen to the tablet itself. So again, one tick past mark toward firm from the middle. Tilt sensitivity, it's on normal. I do not use this, but for painters or other folks doing graphic work and so forth, you get control, and in Photoshop it's an option, as well as things like Corel Painter and other programs. When the pen is straight up and down, you can actually tilt it, and that's going to change the shape of the brush. It's going to change how it interacts with the program itself, which is the coolest thing in the world. And again, it's inside of Photoshop, and you get a change to it depending upon how you tilt it. So as you're sitting here drawing up and down like this, but if you tilt the pen this way and draw, you're going to get the softer, shallow side of the brush or the pencil head or whatever. If you've ever drawn using a colored pencil, a crayon, or a pencil, when you use the very tip of the brush or the tip of the pencil, you get a different interaction in what's put down from the medium than when you do from the side. Like shading, you would do it from the side. But then if you want to draw a line, you would generally do it from the very top of the tip of the pencil itself. So tilt sensitivity comes into play here. And then tip double click distance. It's pretty self-explanatory. How far you want the pen to have to drift above the tablet so that when you do a double click by using the buttons on the pen, you can have the pen not have to make contact with it. You can have it be a pretty good distance away. If it's set to off, you actually have to touch the pen to the tablet and then use the pen's buttons to interact with it. That leads us to the buttons itself and my final recommendation for the buttons. So here we see that there are a few different controls. Built into Pen 2.0 is the back end of the pen is this connection, which I doubt my camera's gonna pick it up. It's gonna pick it up on my forehead. I can poke my forehead with my pen. This is always associated to the eraser tool inside of Photoshop. So if I wanted to erase, I don't have to hit the letter E. I can just simply flip my pen over and use it like a regular pencil and use the rubber eraser that would have been the end of a normal pencil. However, I don't use that. I just always hit E for eraser and use it inside of Photoshop. Then the tip here can be controlled. So a click, like a left mouse click, is simply just me tapping the tablet once, can be a click. In Photoshop, I don't use it as a click. I use my regular mouse as a click. But the two buttons on the pen, oh boy, do I use those all the time. So as you can see, you can set up the first, the button on your pen has two different clicks, one toward the front head of the pen and one toward the back. The front click I have set to be a keystroke. So if I click here, it's down to keystroke. And when I click this, it brings up this window. And you can see the keystroke it's recording is the letter X. And I named it the letter X. Inside of Photoshop, when you hit the letter X, that flips your foreground and background colors. So when I'm painting on a layer mask, I don't have to hit the letter X. I don't have to actually move my mouse over to the foreground and background little squares and click them. I can just simply hit this button on my pen. It saves me so much time. And yes, I'm going to show you an actual picture here in just a moment of the setup of my keyboard, Wacom pen, and my regular mouse on my desk. But I keep my left hand on the keyboard. And so when I'm painting, yes, I could just reach over and hit the letter X on my keyboard. Most of the time I rest my hands on the bracket keys. The left and right bracket keys on your keyboard makes the brush bigger or smaller inside of Photoshop. So for me to then move my hand all the way over to the letter X without looking down at the keyboard, that takes too much time and I would miss it. And so I right and left bracket keys, I'm looking right at the screen, and then to hit letter X with my left hand, I'd have to look down and hit it. Whereas when I'm painting, I can keep visual contact with what I'm painting. Use my left index finger and my left middle finger are on the left and right bracket keys. So I just keep looking as I'm drawing and painting, and then I just hit this pen button, and it switches back and forth between my foreground and background colors. I not only do it when I'm painting on layer masks, when I'm retouching and sampling different skin tones, I will make my foreground color one skin tone, my background another skin tone, and I can just bounce back and forth because I have set the pen to be associated to the letter X and then named it the letter X here. I'm just going to hit cancel to go back out. The other button has been associated to a double click because in Photoshop with the pen, sometimes distance is bad, computer is lagging, whatever else. And so if I'm trying to like double click, I used to use the tip of the pen as the double click, and that was just a disaster. So I use the double click as this other button. So if I have to double click anything inside of Photoshop, all I have to do is hit that little button and it works. But I strongly recommend that you decide what is best for you, both in the tip feel, how hard you have to push down, and you'll see that little pressure indicator here. If you need tilt sensitivity, set it up in there, and then how far you want that double click distance to be. But these two keys themselves, and I do strongly recommend that you explore the function keys so that there's different functions and random functions or ones you use all the time. Save as. So you don't have to go up to File and come down to Save As. You don't have to hit the hotkeys, the original hotkeys for whatever they are. And if you've seen other videos on this channel, you know that I have reset the function keys, the F1 keys on my keyboard, to be basic functions in Photoshop we use all the time. So the reason why I don't use the function keys on the tablet. Because for me, like Save is F3. Save As is F1. F2 is Close. Like things that I use like that. But you can also set up the express keys for that. So let me put on the screen now. This is a picture of my actual desk and the giant mouse mat that I use and the keyboard, the tablet, and the mouse. This is my setup and how I use it. I usually keep my left hand on the keyboard, my right hand on the tablet, and since it's a small tablet, it fits really decently, and then the mouse right next to it. Also notice that I have a keyboard that doesn't have the traditional keypad on the side either. It's a little bit of a smaller keyboard. And it has the lights built into it For two reasons. One, I keep the lights on it because I tend to work when I'm doing a lot of editing in a dark room. I will edit during the day, during daylight, but most of the time when I'm doing artwork that is commercial jobs or my own personal artwork for competitions, I will do it at night because I don't want light contamination coming into the scene as I'm painting. And number two, my keyboard has lights in it because I'm an avid video game player and I need to see the keys so I can destroy you. Destroy you. Anyway, so that's my setup for all of this. Some folks like to have, especially when they use a laptop, they'll put the Wacom tablet right in front of the laptop. They keep their hand up on the built-in keyboard of it. Some people, if they are using a Wacom tablet for their PC, they like to have the keyboard in front of them and then the Wacom tablet in front of that. And however it makes sense for you. I would just caution this. And I know this gets into a little bit of physicality and so forth. Make sure you're setting it up so that your arms are at a good distance for your shoulders, that you aren't lifting your forearms up really high or low. That's really kind of based on your desk itself, but these are things that are important, and it kind of goes in conjunction with this because my desk is, I have a standing desk, and it's actually set to be the lowest it can be, so that my feet rest evenly on the ground and my arms, when I rest my forearms on the desk, especially when I'm holding the pen, that my arm is not lifted up high. Because with hours and hours of painting, if your arm is up like this and you're painting like this, because you have to rest your arm up higher on your desk, you're going to have problems. I also keep my monitor so that when I look straight ahead, my monitor is at even level with my eyes, right at it. You know what? Let me back out into the other view real quick, so you can see my beautiful face. So that when I look at the monitor, my head is even. So I'm not tilted down, looking down at a laptop screen, and I'm not looking up at a monitor like this because, again, over time, it's going to cause strain. So my forearms rest very evenly on my desk, my head is at a good view, and my tablet and pen keyboard are set up side by side, so it makes it even and easy for me to just kind of keep my hands where they are and work, and I don't have to like really shift my arms that much. So since we're in this beautiful view, let's go to our final thoughts for the video. Here's the deal. The reason why people tell me they don't like tablets is because of the learning curve. I've had students tell me that all the time. Friends of mine at conferences tell me they buy them because I recommend it, which I think is really cool. I'm not sponsored by Wacom, by the way, yet. And they immediately, oh, I got one and I can't wait to start using it because you speak so enthusiastically about it. I'm like, that's awesome. And then I get a message from them a week later saying, I hate this thing because it takes time to learn how to use it. And it's absolutely true. There is a decent learning curve in getting the control with the pen and the tablet. You would think that it would be easier. Here's my recommendation for this, and it's two things. First, when I got my pen tablet long ago, 20 years ago, I put away my computer mouse. I disconnected it from my computer and put it in the drawer because the pen tablet acts as a mouse. And the Wacom Intuos line used to come with a fake hard plastic mouse that had buttons on it. And you would just put it on top of the pen tablet and you would use it as a mouse. I didn't even use that. I used the pen. So not only in Photoshop, if I was navigating browsers, whatever I was doing, I always used the pen. Number two, when people get pen tablets, and I've seen this happen a lot, they treat it like it's this bizarre, like somehow 3D interacting machine where they're like, I'm navigating something far away, because it's hard for them to look up and see the brush move, but their hand is down here. I get that. Try opening up a blank document and signing your name, and treat the pen like it's a pencil. Look down at the tablet and just do it. Ignore the document, ignore the computer monitor, and just start writing your name and looking right at the tablet. You'll start to feel the pen be a pen, and then make the transition and look up. Thirdly, and unfortunately, I can't provide a link to it because the websites are hit or miss. But I recommend, and go with me on this before you start giggling, I recommend that you go to Google search and type in adult coloring books. Go with me on this. It does not have anything to do with them being PG-13 or rated R or above. Adult coloring books are simply coloring books with beautiful patterns or shapes or landscape scenes and so forth, and they're meant for adults to use them as coloring books. You can get digital sheets of those and put them in Photoshop and actually color. I used to do that all the time to train myself how to use this tablet. I would get adult coloring book sheets. Now, back then, I actually just got adult coloring books themselves, ripped out the pages, scanned them, and put them in the computer because this was long ago before the interwebs were amazing. Learn how to use it by drawing your name, writing your name, drawing in these coloring books. But it takes time. I know that. But everything that's worthwhile in life is hard work. And it just sucks, but it is. I strongly recommend that you use a pen tablet. You don't have to use Wacom. There's other third-party tablets out there, and I've never owned one. I've not heard horrible things about them. I've not heard amazing things about them because most of the time folks are just using Wacom. They've been around for a long time. They make great products. They consistently support them with new drivers, new technology. They're constantly innovating it. I can't recommend them enough. That ends this video for today. Hopefully this is helpful to you to teach you how to set up these things. If you have questions, if there's something that did not make sense, if you're having trouble, put it in the comments in this video and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Check out B&H Photo for those tablets. Make sure that you set up the right settings for your tablet itself. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you just have to practice. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you out there in the world of Photoshop.